Welcome back to the Block Search Repair YouTube channel. Today I managed to pick up this Area 51 on Facebook Marketplace for free from a skating rink near me that was apparently getting rid of it because the monitor is inconsistent. So let's see what we got here. We actually have both guns and they appear to be in pretty good shape, though this one's missing its sight and it looks weird. It looks fatter than the actual HAT 45, so I'm wondering if this isn't a fake, as this one also should be red. Annoyingly, they stole the top coin door off of it. I'm not sure why they did that. My best guess is it had a card swipe on it, and it was easier to remove the whole 4 screws instead of figuring out how to mount their card swipe. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter. I have these top coin doors, plus they probably had a hole drilled in it for their card swipe, so it wouldn't have done me any good anyway. Now, there's a few interesting things going on here in the back. If we take a look at this model number on here, this is actually a Primal Rage cabinet, which you can also tell by the artwork. We still have Primal Rage artwork there and down there, which is pretty cool. Now, interestingly, this was manufactured by Atari Games Ireland, and if we come down here, we have some finish writing, which is really weird. It means this cabinet was imported at some point, which is, again, really weird, because this is my second Area 51 cabinet that's imported. Now, unfortunately, it obviously did not come with keys, but judging by the fact we have a Phillips head screw there, I'm thinking that's probably not even connected to anything. So let's just unscrew that screw and see if we can get in here and see if we even got a game board. They also weirdly stole the power connector, which is odd, but now we got this drywall screw out here. Let's get this bad boy open and see what we got. We got a monitor, we got a chassis, and do we have a game board? I'm not seeing a game board. Where the fuck is the game board in this? Oh, it's probably in the control panel tray. That's weird. My other one of these, it's right down there, but I guess it is a different cabinet. We got more high voltage warnings. Okay, the screws are out. Let's see if we got a game board in this bad boy. Yeah, good old-fashioned original hard drive and everything. They're looking pretty damn clean in there. I'm gonna need to cover those ROM chips, though. That's scary. Now let's get this thing plugged in and see if we have any signs of life. From what was described to me, it sounds like the board's working, it's just the monitor is inconsistent, so honestly that sounds like capacitors to me, so this should be a pretty simple flip, hopefully. Moment of truth. I hear monitor. That's a good sign. Oh, I'm starting to see a little bit of a blue glow. That's unexpected. I was expecting a monitor issue. That seems like a game board issue. Well, this is pretty interesting. We don't even have any lights on this motherboard, so I'm thinking we're not even getting power from the power supply. Well, this is interesting. All 3 wires are cut off this power supply. What was going on here? Did somebody just, when they took the power cable, they just said, fuck it, I'm taking the whole damn power cable? This appears to be the connector for the power supply. Somebody just stole the other side of it. What the hell? This is annoying. So I've got a new connector, so let's wire this thing up and see if it'll actually turn on now. Now with everything wired back together, we're going to plug this thing back in and see if it goes up in smoke or actually turns on. Obviously, we're going to hope it turns on, but I don't actually know why they cut off the connector to that power supply. Moment of truth. Hey, we got lights on the motherboard this time. We didn't have those before. So I was able to boot into the test mode by flipping the test switch, obviously. It's not booting into the game, and I don't think we have any activity on that drive. It's not, besides for a random click every now and then, it's not like whirring up. There's nothing going on with that. So I think the drive's dead, unfortunately. We're gonna go run through the memory test and see if we can, well, figure out what else is going on. Well, it appears to have frozen. I know the left start works because I used it to get into this menu, so that's not good. Unfortunately, I can't do anything except the color RAM test because you have to use the guns to go down, and the guns don't work. The triggers sometimes work. It doesn't always work on the left one. With the right gun, the trigger always works, but the tracking does not work on either of them for some reason. Very odd. Another thing I find quite odd is here in the statistics, we have an EEPROM error across from, well, Games 1. I have absolutely no idea what this means. I'm not sure how it got into this test, but it's at least doing some kind of self-test. So I unfortunately was not able to catch it on camera, but it did actually pass that without any issues before it reset and put itself into the test menu. Now let's go into, I guess, the monitor test and set up some settings in this monitor and see if we can get it to display right. Looks like we have almost no red. It actually shows more red on camera than it does in person. There is basically nothing there. Unfortunately, no matter what I adjust, it doesn't seem to want to track on this monitor. So what I'm going to actually do is probably take this PCB out, install it in my other machine, and see if those guns track on it. That'll at least tell me if it's a PCB issue, or a monitor, or a gun issue. Again, don't think it's a gun issue because I do have light emitting from both these guns using a proper camera to do that, aka a Pixel 6 can see it. For some reason, these Note 9s can't. But the guns are at least emitting something, so they should be tracking, but they're absolutely not tracking whatsoever. So what that means is time to pull this board out. This will be a machine that'll be worth once it's finished going through and removing a bunch of excess wires. I don't know how many times this machine's been converted, but I think it's at least more than once because there is a ton of wires on here that just do not go anywhere. There's even an extra light gun wire that doesn't go to this. So obviously that light gun wire wasn't from when it was Primal Rage, so... Now, it's not the exact same board revision, which means the hard drive out of this one probably won't work, as this one also has the upgraded Maximum Force Area 51, but the plug should be compatible to plug this board into this cabinet to see, well, if it actually boots properly and if the guns track. Weirdly, even with the self-test switch switched off on the motherboard, it's still going into this diagnostic. After having to sit through that stupid long self-test because I couldn't find a way to cancel it, even powering the machine off and powering it back on, it always went back to that for some reason. Don't know why, maybe it's because the hard drive's dead, but as you can see, it kind of tracks. The guns are going a bit haywire, but that's not something to be concerned about. They just kind of do that on this monitor sometimes. I'm also doing it at a weird angle, but the guns actually track, so it is not a PCB issue. It is, in fact, a monitor issue on that other cabinet. Kind of sucks, but to be expected, I guess. The good news is, though, we at least have a functional motherboard, just a bad hard drive and a monitor issue. So that's not too big of a deal. I think the next step is gonna be to recap that monitor. We need to figure out what kind of monitor this is so we can get a cap kit for it. Obviously, it's actually a Neotech, and the model number is unreadable. Luckily, it's written there, and it's also written on the side. That's amazing. 99% of the time, it seems, the sticker that says the model number is completely gone, and then you just have to look at a bunch of photos online until you can find one that matches. But we know that this is a Neotech 2515C, so we'll order a cap kit for this. Unfortunately, I do not have any on hand, so it's gonna take a little bit. So we're not going to be able to do that in this video, but I almost guarantee that's going to end up fixing the issue with this monitor. Capacitors almost always do. Now, I get a lot of comments asking why I don't just test the capacitors and find the ones that's bad and replace them. The simple answer is these capacitors are 20, 30 years old. They're all worn, they're all failing, and I could find the one that's bad, but I might not even find the one that's bad because it could test correct on capacitance. It's just failing under load, or the cross resistance isn't good. There's a ton of things that could have failed on these capacitors. So whenever it comes to electrolytic capacitors, it is much simpler to just replace them all. Especially if you're going to sell a machine, because you don't want the monitor to die next week. And these capacitors, honestly, any of them could fail next week. So it's much better to just replace all of them with brand new capacitors. Now, get them from a reputable source, but that's really not that hard to do. And I saw a capacitor kit for this monitor is like 20 bucks. It's really cheap, and it's worth doing to basically any cabinet. Just looking down here, there's money inside this thing. It also appears to be a receipt in there, but there's also money down here. So let's pull this money out and see how much money we got in this free machine. And we ended up with $1.75, with the newest one being from 2017 and the oldest being from 1970. So this thing's actually worked rather recently. I also found this here, which appears to be a tag saying when it was converted to an Area 51 kit, when it was installed and stuff. Now, weirdly, this is in Finnish, and I figured this was probably converted after it was imported to America because, well, Primal Rages are a lot more rare here than Area 51s, but no, somebody actually imported this as an Area 51, which does surprise me. The only other thing I want to look at is there's no way to access this section of the cabinet. The speaker's in that section, but there is no other way to access it. There's a hole in the back where the wires for the speakers come in, but that is it. So I'm going to remove the speaker and take a look, see if there's anything hidden in there. I feel like that might not be the original speaker, but unfortunately, there is absolutely nothing inside there. Damn. I'm also going to go ahead and order a new hard drive, and by that I'm going to buy an SSD and the adapter to use an SSD because, well, we don't want a hard drive to die. I also have people complaining that I shouldn't use SSDs because SSDs will, well, delete themselves after so long. And honestly, while that's true, an SSD could delete itself after a while. You know what a hard drive can do? Die. Very easily. Very quickly. These machines get traveled around in trailers, bouncing around, and it often kills these hard drives. So it is a lot nicer to just have an SSD. As long as it's powered on once every, like, 10 years, that SSD is not going to delete itself. But we got this machine diagnosed. We obviously just need a new hard drive and a new cap kit on that monitor, and we should be good to go. So in the next part, we'll get that all finished and get that machine, hopefully, out of here and sold because, well, we need to sell some machines. But if you like what you saw, please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.